Hello, this is Lynn McCool, and this is the Week 6 lecture notes. And in this particular screencast, we will cover the Assignment 3 directions, your formal letter genre, a review of your progress report genre, a review of Gantt charts, and then how to insert a visual into text. Okay, so let's get started. Your Assignment 3 has 3 deliverables: your market analysis progress report, a Gantt chart, which is to be inserted into the report and not tacked on at the end, and then your transmittal or cover letter, which is the document that actually introduces the report and briefly summarizes it for the reader. A couple of other items I'll mention about this assignment. In the context of this assignment, you've been given quite a bit of information, and so you'll want to close read the context very carefully and pull out all of the little bits of information that you know, not only about your own company, but also about the client's company. Then anything that is not specifically mentioned or that can be intuited by what you understand the prompt to say, you can, within reason, make up information for your client as well as for your company that you are working for. Now, there are 2 main purposes for this assignment. First, you want to build goodwill and maintain that positive working relationship with your client. And then secondly, I'm very interested in seeing if you can create a Gantt chart visual and pull out that information about the different project deadlines and actually put them in a visualized state so that the reader could easily see who's doing what when. And then finally, you want to carefully work through the different directions here, making sure that you are following those and creating the assignment in the way that you have been directed. All right, the next thing we want to address is the formal letter genre, because in this assignment, you have to create a transmittal letter, not an email. And so there are some differences between emails and letters, and obviously the biggest difference is that letters are meant to be printed and mailed. And so in a formal letter genre, you would actually have letterhead, and if you check your directions in your assignment, it actually asks you to create letterhead. I didn't do that for you this time, so you need to create your own letterhead. And then the actual formal letter itself has a number of different parts to it. For example, the header, the salutation, the introduction, which sets a context for the rest of the letter by defining the subject, the purpose, and the main point. Body paragraphs, which would provide content for your readers. And in this instance, this particular transmittal letter the content will actually be a brief summary of the report. And then the conclusion should rebuild the context for the readers by restating the main point and looking to the future and providing contact information. And then finally, you would have your signature line. And then underneath that, if you had any enclosure, you would want to signify that with the ENCL colon and then stating what the enclosure is. Now, in this particular assignment, you actually do have an enclosure. It is the market progress report. So you would want to mention that in your letter. A few more things to pay attention to with the formal letter genre. Again, you have your professional letterhead, and then you have a series of what I call moves throughout the letter. So for example, you should have the date, the contact name of the person that you are writing, and that person's inside, it's called the inside address, but it's this person's address. The greeting, the body of the letter, and of course there are several different parts to the body. And then the closing with a signature. Now, that's one main difference between a letter and an email is that we don't have a formal written signature. You can be creative in how you decide to do that, and you can use some sort of script font to simulate a handwritten signature, if you will, for your particular letter, but you should have something here. And then, of course, if you had any enclosures, this particular example doesn't, but remember, yours will. One last thing that I want to point out about letters is that there are 2 basic styles. One style is called block style, and it's fully left justified, and then there's another style called modified block. And before the advent of the computer, modified block was probably the most popular style. However, today, with computers doing most of our word processing for us, The block style, where everything is fully left justified, is the preferred form, and it is the preferred form mentioned in your textbook. It's my preferred form, so please use the block style when you design your letter. All right, now let's review over the basic features of progress reports. Remember that you have several different sections in a progress report. The introduction, which clearly states the report's purpose and main point. You have a summary of activities that occurred within the reporting period. So that could include the results of your activities and even future activities that you anticipate to happen. Somewhere within the body of the report, you would want to place your graphics or illustrations, and in this instance, for this report, it would be your Gantt chart that would illustrate your activities and present the data about what needs to be done and what has already been done. And then you should also mention any record of expenses that you've incurred within the reporting period, and also any that may occur before the project is completed. You don't want to have the client be surprised by some sort of expense that they were not anticipating. And then finally, the conclusion that restates the main point and looks to the future. Remember, Gantt charts, their purpose is to act as a timeline that displays dates, completed tasks, ongoing tasks, future tasks, milestones and markers, and then the personnel associated with task completion. And here's an example of a Gantt chart. Remember, I told you that you can go to Google Docs and just do a search, or do a search on the Google search engine for Gantt chart templates in Google Docs, and there's a page where there are a number of different templates that you can download and use. Now, obviously, if you feel very adept with Excel, you could probably create your own Gantt chart in Excel as well. So I leave it up to you how you want to decide to create your chart. I want to leave you with a few last tips on how to insert visuals into text. And the first thing that you should always consider is good document design principles that we discussed last week of white space, alignment, proximity, repetition, and contrast. But beyond that, here are some other things that you need when you put a visual into a report or any other kind of document. That visual always should have a title that tells the story of the visual. It should have clearly labeled units. So labels or legends and identifying axes, colors, and symbols, and so on, all should be clearly labeled. The data source, if it's not original to you, should be cited, and the source of the visual or the data display, if it is not original to you, should be cited. Now, because this assignment assumes in the prompt that you are an employee of this particular company who is working with this particular client, the assumption would be is that the visual and its data are original to you, so you would not need any citation. And then the last thing that you should remember about visuals in text is that you should refer to your visual in your text, and that can be as simple as see Figure 1 or see Table 2. But the thing that you want to remember is that wherever you place that visual, the reference to the visual should be nearby. So you shouldn't say see Figure 1 and then 3 pages later Figure 1 appears. Figure 1 and the reference to it should be very close to each other in proximity. All right, that's all I have for you for today. If you have any questions, please contact me. Thank you.